You don't look like someone who's ever had dirt under her nails. The voice came from across the crowded mess hall, sharp enough to slice through the hum of conversation. Captain Rebecca Hayes didn't look up right away. She'd learned long ago that silence had more power than any retort. Her fingers traced the edges of the classified folder resting on her tray. The same folder that would soon alter the fate of every soldier seated in that room. Outside, the Afghan sun scorched the horizon of Forward Operating Base Falcon, its heat shimmering off armored vehicles and razor wire. Inside, the air conditioning hummed weakly, barely cutting the dust that clung to uniforms and skin. 3 months into her deployment, Rebecca had grown used to the rhythm of it. The morning reports, the coded transmissions, the ever-present ache of vigilance. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Veteran Story channel so you never miss these fascinating tales of courage. And let us know in the comments where you're watching today. Rebecca's calm exterior hid the truth. She was exhausted. Every day in naval intelligence brought a new layer of deception and danger. Every coded message might conceal a trap, yet her father's words often echoed in her mind. Courage isn't about medals, Becca. It's about what you do when nobody's watching. Her father, General Matthew Hayes, had been a decorated Marine and a national hero, the kind whose name appeared in textbooks. For most of her life, Rebecca had lived in his shadow, expected to carry the same fire, the same discipline, and she had, though in her own way. Graduating at the top of her class at Georgetown, she'd stunned everyone by choosing naval intelligence over a promising academic career. The classroom is safe, she'd once said, but truth doesn't live in safe places. Today she wasn't in uniform. Just khaki pants, a navy blue blouse, and the faint outline of a sidearm hidden under her jacket. She looked deliberately like someone unimportant, but the USB drive in her pocket held intelligence that could change the course of operations in the Kunar province. Intel suggesting a network of insurgents gathering in the northern valleys, shielding what command suspected was a high-value target. Her task was simple in theory: brief the SEAL unit that had arrived yesterday. In reality, it was anything but simple. The SEALs were the kind of men who trusted experience over words, action over analysis. Rebecca had worked long enough in the field to understand their skepticism toward intelligence officers, especially one who didn't fit their image of combat-proven. As she scanned the cafeteria, she spotted them easily. Broad-shouldered, sunburned, the kind of confidence that filled the room before they even spoke. One of them, tall, with a sharp jaw and an air of unearned amusement, caught her eye briefly before returning to his teammates. Laughter rippled through the group, a private world she wasn't invited into. Rebecca set her tray down in a corner table and opened her notes one last time. Her handwriting was tight, deliberate. She'd cross-referenced every data point twice. Somewhere beyond those mountains, lives depended on what she was about to present. Then the same voice rang out again, louder this time, directed at her. "Hey, Harvard, you here to audit the war or something?" A few of the SEALs chuckled. Rebecca looked up, meeting his gaze with the quiet poise of someone who had nothing to prove. "Just finishing up some work before a meeting," she said evenly. The lieutenant grinned, tilting his head. "Meeting, huh? Let me guess, supply chain? Public affairs?" Rebecca closed her folder, the movement slow, measured. "Actually, no." Her tone was light, but her eyes were steady. "And you are?" "Lieutenant Ryan Cole," he replied, puffing his chest slightly as if the name carried weight. "SEAL Team 7. The room seemed to pause just enough for the tension to breathe. The other SEALs watched, curious now. Rebecca stood, her calm authority filling the space between them. "Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Hayes, Naval Intelligence." She slid a small identification card across the table. "I'll be briefing your team in 20 minutes on Operation Iron Falcon." For a moment, Ryan said nothing. The laughter around him faded. Someone muttered, "Wait, Commander?" Rebecca gave a small, knowing smile. "That's right. And for the record, I've been dirtier than you think." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was respect, reluctantly earned. Across the hall, the heavy doors opened and Commander Mason Brooks and the SEAL team leader stepped inside. His sharp eyes landed immediately on Rebecca. "Commander Hayes," he greeted with a nod. "Good, you've met my team." "Just getting acquainted," she replied. "Excellent," Brooks said, his tone dry but approving. "Because you'll be joining us tonight. The mission's been moved up." A flicker of surprise crossed her face, quickly masked by professionalism. "Sir?" Brooks gestured for her to follow. "There's been a development. Intel leak, possibly. We'll discuss in command." Rebecca's pulse quickened. Something in his voice told her the operation had just changed, and that the true test of her conviction was about to begin. The command center buzzed with tension. The low hum of satellite feeds, the faint static of encrypted radio chatter, and the heavy awareness that every decision made here might cost lives. Commander Brooks stood at the center, his hands braced on the table as maps and infrared images flickered across multiple screens. Rebecca took her place beside him, sliding her classified folder open with a practiced motion. "Satellite recon from 3 hours ago," she began, her voice steady but brisk. "We've confirmed enemy movement through the northern ridge of the Kunar Valley. 30-plus hostiles, possibly more. They're fortifying positions near the old copper mine. That's here." She tapped the map with a pencil. "If our intel is correct, they're protecting a communications hub. Possibly an encrypted relay for coordinating attacks outside Afghanistan." Brooks studied the display, brow furrowed. "Extraction route?" "Compromised," Rebecca replied. "Thermal imaging shows fighters along the southern ridge. They know we're coming." "Then someone leaked it," Brooks muttered. "We scrubbed the briefings twice." "Who else had access?" Rebecca hesitated. Her eyes flicked toward the intel officers monitoring nearby terminals. "I can't confirm that yet, sir. But if the leak came from within our coalition network, there's no safe route. We'll need an alternate insertion, one they won't anticipate." Brooks crossed his arms, the muscle in his jaw tightening. "You're suggesting a climb," Rebecca nodded. "The north face of the valley. It's steep, nearly vertical. Taliban scouts wouldn't expect an approach from there. Too risky, too technical." "Because it is," he countered. "You've seen the slope, it's practically a wall." "I've climbed worse," she said quietly. Then, catching his skeptical look, added, "El Capitan, twice." The room fell silent. Even the analysts glanced up from their screens. Rebecca didn't flinch under the scrutiny. Her gaze remained fixed on the map. "If we move under full darkness and keep our team light, we can reach the objective undetected. We extract through the Shepherd's Pass here. Narrow, but defensible." Brooks exhaled through his nose, weighing the impossible against the inevitable. "You realize what you're proposing, Commander? This isn't a training climb, it's a combat zone." "I'm aware, sir," Rebecca said. "But I also know walking through the valley is suicide. We either adapt or we walk into an ambush." A long pause. Then Brooks nodded once. "Prep the team. We move at 200. Rebecca's heartbeat quickened, but she didn't show it. The SEALs would be watching now, testing whether her composure was genuine or rehearsed. She'd been underestimated before, and it always ended the same way, with quiet competence proving louder than bravado. As she turned to leave the command tent, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "So, Commander," Ryan Cole said, his tone cautious now, "you really planning to climb that rock face with us?" She looked back, her expression unreadable. "That's the plan, Lieutenant. Unless you're afraid of heights." He smirked faintly. "Afraid? No. Surprised?" "Absolutely." "Good," she said, pausing at the door. "Let's keep surprising each other." Hours later, the desert night cloaked everything in shades of gray and silence. The team moved out. 7 figures, ghosts against the starlit expanse. Rebecca adjusted the strap of her gear, feeling the familiar pressure of her weapon against her hip. The rhythmic crunch of boots over gravel was the only sound, broken occasionally by Brooks's low commands over comms. When they reached the base of the mountain, she gazed up. The north face loomed like a fortress of stone, sharp and unforgiving. For a fleeting moment, fear brushed against her resolve. She pushed it aside. Climbing had always been her way of finding calm, one movement, one breath at a time. On her first mission in Syria, she'd scaled a compound wall under fire to pull a wounded corporal to safety. The memory flashed now, sharp as glass. Fear was familiar. Control was a choice. "Rope secure," Ryan's voice came through the headset. "We're set." Rebecca clipped in and began her ascent. The weight of her pack tugged at her shoulders, each motion deliberate, rehearsed. Dust filled the air as small rocks broke loose beneath her boots. Sweat traced down her spine despite the cold night air. Halfway up, they paused on a narrow ledge. Below them, the valley stretched endlessly, and above, the stars burned like quiet witnesses. Ryan's voice came softly through the comms. "Not bad for an intel officer." Rebecca smiled faintly, though her eyes never left the climb. I told you, Lieutenant. I'm full of surprises. A burst of gunfire cracked in the distance, echoing through the valley. The team froze. Spotlights flared below, arcs of light sweeping the slopes. Voices shouted in Pashto. They've spotted us? Ryan whispered. Negative, Rebecca replied, peering through her night vision scope. Her training took over. Every sense sharpened, every instinct precise. They're firing at something else. Brooks' voice came over comms, low and clipped. Identify. Rebecca tuned her radio scanner, catching a flicker of American voices, frantic, under fire. Special Forces unit, half a mile east, she reported. Pinned down. Unrelated operation. Then it's not our concern, Brooks said flatly. Rebecca hesitated. She could hear the panic in those distant transmissions. Men calling for backup that wasn't coming. Sir, she said quietly, those are our people. Our mission is time-sensitive, Brooks replied. We can't. I know where the intelligence is kept, she interrupted, voice rising slightly. Let me go for it. You take half the team to support them. It's the only way both objectives survive the night. The silence stretched. Commanders weren't supposed to argue mid-mission. But Rebecca didn't look away. She saw the calculation in Brooks' eyes, duty battling morality. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Split the team. Cole Martinez and with me. Hayes, you're with Wilson and Ortiz. Get that intel. Rebecca exhaled slowly, her pulse steady again. Copy that. As the team separated along the ridge, she felt the weight of what had just happened, a decision that might save lives or doom them all. The mountain loomed darker than ever, but Rebecca kept climbing, one sure movement at a time, into the heart of uncertainty. The compound appeared lifeless under the cover of night, an empty courtyard, a flicker of firelight from somewhere deep within, and the eerie stillness of a place that wanted to be believed as abandoned. Rebecca crouched low behind a crumbling wall, her breathing calm and measured. Every sound mattered now, the scrape of boots, the whisper of desert wind. 2 guards inside, she whispered into her headset, scanning through her thermal lens. Heat signatures by the eastern building. Commander Brooks's voice came through faintly, roughened by gunfire in the distance. Acknowledged. Wilson, secure our exit. Ortiz on me. Hayes, you know your objective. Copy that, Rebecca murmured, slinging her rifle over her shoulder and pulling her tablet from her pack. The screen glowed faintly, displaying blueprints of the structure before her, drawn from weeks of analysis and intercepted schematics. Beneath the eastern building was a chamber, hidden, reinforced. That was where the intelligence was stored. The assault began silently, a muffled pop and a suppressed shot, and one of the guards dropped without a sound. Another heartbeat, another shot, then silence again. Ortiz signaled all clear. Rebecca slipped inside, boots gliding over broken tile. The smell of oil, dust, and gunpowder clung to the air. She found the stairwell she was looking for, half hidden behind a shelf of old radio equipment. I'm in, she whispered. The descent into the lower chamber felt like falling into another world. The light from her tablet illuminated concrete walls scarred with bullet holes, a narrow desk cluttered with maps, and a single laptop connected to an encrypted comm line. She worked quickly, hands steady, heart racing. Each file she opened revealed another layer of the threat. Coordinates, dates, targets, embassies, American soil. Planned attacks within weeks. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, downloading the files to a flash drive while she photographed the handwritten pages. The tension in her chest tightened. This wasn't just intelligence, it was prevention. Every second she stayed down here was 1 second closer to discovery. Above her, a faint thud reverberated through the floor. Then another. Her instincts sharpened. She pressed a hand to her earpiece. Jackson, report, static. Then the roar of gunfire. Contact. Ortiz's voice exploded through the channel. Multiple hostiles, west perimeter. They're everywhere. The transmission cut to static. Rebecca cursed under her breath, grabbing her weapon. She pocketed the flash drive, slung her rifle into position, and sprinted up the narrow staircase. The hallway erupted in chaos. Gunfire shredding through plaster, shouts in Pashto echoing off the walls. Ortiz was down behind a toppled table, returning fire in short bursts. We're compromised, he yelled. Rebecca dropped beside him, taking aim. How many? Too damn many. Through the shattered doorway, she saw movement. half a dozen figures advancing fast. She fired clean and controlled. 2 went down. The others scattered for cover. She turned to Ortiz. We need to fall back. Extraction points blown. Copy that. Where to? Rebecca checked her tablet again, heart pounding. The path that once led to safety was a swarm of red heat signatures, a kill zone. But 2 miles north, there was a small mark she'd added herself weeks ago. Al-Khail Village. A place that had once offered her shelter during another mission. There, she said. We move north. There's a contact who can help us. A sudden explosion rocked the compound, knocking her off balance. Dust rained from the ceiling. Ortiz grabbed her arm, dragging her upright. That was the secondary team, Rebecca gasped, pressing her comm. Commander Brooks, do you copy? Static. Then a strained voice, barely audible. Special Forces extraction successful, but Martinez is hit. We're pinned. We need a way out. Rebecca swallowed hard. There's another route. It runs through the compound we're in. Bring your team to us. A pause. Then Brooks's reply came sharp and final. On our way. Hold your position, copy, she whispered. Her hands were trembling now, not from fear, but from the calculation of time. How little they had before the enemy closed in. She and Ortiz held the line, laying suppressive fire to buy precious minutes. When the first of Brooks' team burst through the doorway, dragging the wounded Martinez between them, Rebecca felt the flood of relief wash through her. But it lasted only seconds. The extraction point's lost, Brooks said grimly, setting Martinez down against the wall. We're boxed in. Rebecca knelt beside the wounded SEAL. His breathing was shallow, blood soaking through a makeshift tourniquet. He needs medical attention fast, she said. Not happening until we're out of this valley, Brooks replied. She looked around, mind racing. There's a village 2 miles north. I know the locals. They've helped me before. You trust them with American lives? Rebecca met his eyes in a steady, unwavering look. I trust them with mine. It wasn't a debate. It was conviction. Within minutes they were moving again. Martinez carried between 2 men, the rest scanning every shadow. Twice they encountered enemy patrols, and twice they fought their way through. The desert night seemed endless, each ridge revealing another stretch of danger. By the time the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Rebecca's lungs burned and her uniform was streaked with dirt and blood. But the sight of the village, small, sun-bleached, hidden beneath a cluster of olive trees, felt like salvation. An elderly man stepped out from a doorway as they approached. His lined face broke into recognition when he saw Rebecca. He said something in Pashto, urgent and low. She answered quickly, her tone calm and respectful. Then turning to Brooks, she said, He'll take us in. There's a cellar beneath his home. We'll be safe there until extraction. Brooks studied her for a moment, then gave a single nod. Lead the way. Inside, the air was cool and dark. The cellar walls were lined with grain sacks and old tools. Rebecca helped lower Martinez onto a cot as a village doctor arrived, a man she'd met months ago while gathering intel. He worked silently, efficiently, while Rebecca established a communication uplink with base command. Extraction in 6 hours, she announced finally, voice hoarse. Helicopter will arrive at dusk. Brooks sank down against the wall, weapon across his knees. His face was drawn but steady. You did good, Commander. Rebecca didn't answer. Her eyes lingered on the wounded man before her, and the faint outline of the mountains beyond the cellar door. Those same mountains had nearly taken everything from her, yet they had also given her something she hadn't realized she'd lost. Belief. In herself, in her team, in the fragile, stubborn persistence of courage. The team moved in silence as they closed on the target compound, a low cluster of mud brick buildings carved into the hillside. The night air was thin, carrying the faint scent of smoke and diesel. Every movement was deliberate, rehearsed. Rebecca crouched beside the lead vehicle, her headset alive with whispers of comms chatter. She'd been on field ops before, but this one was different. This time she wasn't just the analyst behind the screen. She was the source. The operation was built around her data. 30 meters, whispered Cole, his rifle raised. His voice was calm now, a far cry from the teasing bravado of the mess hall. Copy that, Rebecca replied quietly. Thermal shows 3 hostiles near the west wall, 2 inside the central structure. No movement near the northern exit. Brooks gave the silent hand signal. The team fanned out like clockwork. Seconds later, the silence shattered. Flashbangs lit the compound, a door splintered, and the controlled chaos of a SEAL raid began. Rebecca stayed low, monitoring the drone feed on her tablet. Every heartbeat felt amplified. Her mind mapped the sequence automatically. Breach, clear, secure, confirm. But then in the corner of the thermal display, she saw something that didn't fit. A flicker, movement where there shouldn't be any. "Brooks, you've got a heat signature moving east behind the well," she said sharply. "Confirmed," came the reply. Cole broke formation, moving toward the shadow. A brief scuffle, a flash of light, then a muffled grunt. Seconds later, his voice returned. "Target neutralized." "Good work," Rebecca breathed, relief threading her voice. Minutes passed. The compound was secure. They found what they'd come for: encrypted drives, maps, and a set of coordinates that matched her predictions exactly. The HVT wasn't here, but his network was, and for the first time Rebecca saw the respect in the team's eyes. Not the polite kind, but the kind earned under fire. Cole approached her as they packed up. His voice was low, almost sheepish. "Guess you're not just a desk lady after all." Rebecca smirked faintly. "Guess not." He nodded, then added quietly, "You saved my life back there." She looked at him, steady and calm. "No," she said. "You saved mine when you trusted me." A distant explosion rumbled from the valley below, a reminder that the war didn't end with one successful mission. Brooks' voice cut through the radio. "Everyone mount up. Command wants us wheels up in 10. Rebecca turned toward the horizon, a thin line of dawn breaking over the mountains. For a fleeting moment, she allowed herself a breath of quiet pride. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because in that brief, brutal night, she'd proven that courage didn't wear one uniform. The helicopter blades thundered against the dawn sky, whipping sand and dust into a golden storm. Rebecca sat by the open hatch, headset pressed tight, eyes locked on the horizon. Below them, the Afghan valley stretched endlessly, quiet now, deceptively peaceful. In her lap rested the encrypted drives they'd recovered, data that would unravel months of enemy coordination, save countless lives. Her mission was a success, yet she felt no triumph, only the familiar ache of what victory in war always cost. Cole sat across from her, his gear dusted with dirt and ash. He caught her eye, offered a small wordless nod. Between them, there was no need for apology. No more doubt. Only mutual understanding born from the crucible of chaos. Brooks' voice came through the intercom, calm and clipped as ever. "Command confirms data integrity. Outstanding work, team. Especially you, Commander Hayes." Rebecca's reply was steady. "Just doing my job, sir." Brooks chuckled softly. "Some jobs change the tide, Commander." The aircraft banked west, carrying them back toward base. Rebecca looked down one last time, at the trails of smoke curling from the hills, at the fragments of a place that would soon vanish from the news cycle but never from memory. Then she pulled a small photograph from her vest pocket. Her father, in full marine dress blues, smiling the way he did before deployment. On the back, faded ink read, "Courage means showing up, even when the world doubts you." A tear slipped free. Not of sadness, but of peace. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "I showed up, Dad." The screen fades to black. In every war, there are heroes you'll never read about. Some fight with weapons, others with knowledge, but all of them carry the same quiet courage. Rebecca Hayes wasn't on the front lines to be seen. She was there to make sure others came home. Dedicated to all those who serve, not for recognition, but for duty. Subscribe to the Veteran Story to honor the unseen heroes among us. New stories every week. Real courage, real people.